Welcome to Redefining Medicine, an intimate and personalized program that illustrates a different side of the practice of medicine. Our in-depth conversations will focus on mentors and motivators who are consistently reshaping, redefining, and rediscovering the field of medical healthcare. Today's episode of Redefining Medicine welcomes back America's holistic heart doc, Dr. Joel Kahn, a renowned plant-based preventative cardiologist and academic who currently serves as a clinical professor of medicine. Consistently considered one of the nation's top doctors, Dr. Kahn has published several best-selling books surrounding holistic heart health and is a frequent guest on national TV, radio, and podcasts. Thank you so much, Dr. Kahn, for coming back to chat with us again. It's been almost a year since we've had the opportunity to sit down and find out about you and what you do. So what's new and exciting?
Yeah, the first conversation was a little feisty. I'm kind of surprised I got invited back, and I'm very happy. It's been a year of very exciting integrative cardiology, what I do, combining Eastern and Western, traditional and root cause, medicine and cardiology, and there's got a lot of good things. I mean, we need to define better the optimal diet for all human beings, but there's certainly been this rise of vegan medicine, vegan social media, vegan athletes. The movie What the Health, for those that didn't see the first episode, I've been plant-based for 40 years, and I teach the Ornish, I teach the Esselstyn, I teach the Dr. Joel Fuhrman, Neil Bernard kind of approach to many chronic diseases, and I've seen some stunning results. But it used to be like pulling teeth, and now it's like polishing teeth because people are coming in, much more prepared. And, there may be different strategies nutritionally to approach things. It's certainly a whole food, plant-based, no added oil, naturally low sugar diet, high in fiber, does a lot of good for a lot of people, and it's just become much easier to get them off junk and onto plants. And, that's certainly been one of the big advances of 2017. I think it's just going to keep rolling and rolling. So that's good by me. And then I've really gotten interested in fasting for patients because that science has also just come to prime time, that translative medicine. We had science on what calorie restriction and intermittent fasting, periodic fasting, a variety of words that time-restricted eating confuse the public, confuse clinicians, but now we've got a doctor that I think you've had a discussion with, Dr. Walter Longo. I've had a chance to get pretty close with, and his research team and his clinical translation team, and this 5-day fasting mimicking diet, which I'm one of the biggest kind of clinical users in the country because it's amazing and because...
Share with us the efficacy as for a cardiac patient.
Yeah.
And what you've seen. Yeah,
so I'll just divert for 1 second. I learned about this right at the beginning of 2017, ordered my kit for me. When I learned it was a plant-based 5-day program, I said, I'm going to give it a try. I do a lot of stuff first before I recommend to patients. And I thought it was great. I felt great. I was working, 800 calories, kind of changed my mindset about what's really a full day of calories, which clearly...
How often were you doing it?
I did it the second month, the third month. At the end of that, I was 18 pounds down.
Oh, my goodness.
And I have been a healthy eater for 40 years, so I had never really experienced anything before. I went back to my standard diet, though there's a mindfulness. Most of us, unless you've done a retreat or a water fast or some kind of unusual spiritual endeavor, most of us haven't gone 5 days in a row on 800 calories, balanced so that you actually can work, you feel good, you're not headachy usually. And it was really transformative to me in terms of what I personally did the other 24, 25 days in the month and how much volume I ate and how many meals per day. And they shrunk down. They stayed, healthy. But so I saw amazing transformation. My personal blood pressure fell a lot, and it kind of ticked me that it wasn't perfect in January 2017, and now it's perfect. And I've actually done, in the past 10 months, I've done this 7 times. I like it. I think it's tasty. I think it's easy. I think it's 200 food decisions we make a day as an estimate. I make no food decisions for 5 days. 5 little boxes that are numbered. And so after I did it for a month, I've introduced it now to over a couple hundred patients. Some have done 4 or 5, maybe I got somebody who's done 6 months. And it's a funny kind of bell-shaped curve. A few people the second day they're out. It's kind of like a Seinfeld episode. I'm out, They're out. I mean, they don't like the flavor, they don't like opening the package, whatever it is. And that's okay. And there's a lot of people that kind of match the published data in the peer-reviewed literature, lose 5, 6, 7 pounds. If I do lab work before and after, I see blood sugar, inflammation, same kind of matching. And then there's the end of the bell-shaped curve, which I happen to fit in. I don't know why. I could be a poster child for this stuff. So I've got a number of patients that are 20-plus pounds down. I'm now 25 pounds down. I find this, I don't eat unhealthy knowing I got this crutch. It's like people say statins let you eat unhealthy because you got to answer to your cholesterol. I think it does the opposite. I think it actually enhances and improves the rest of your diet. But more importantly, I got patients' weight are down, I got their blood pressure down, the lab values, their inflammation's down, their cholesterol, although the studies didn't show a gigantic drop in cholesterol, when you do advanced cholesterol panels, you actually see a significant improvement. So that's really been fun to take, my 30, 40-year journey in nutrition, and I'll have, besides just education and dietitians, really a program, turnkey program for the office. As long as you're not allergic and you're a little open-minded, this is odd, but science is unparalleled. So very cool to, so what do I think? I spoke today, there's limited data in general on fasting and cardiovascular disease. The bulk of it suggests that it probably favors preventing or enhancing the reversal of type 2 diabetes, which is a major risk factor, blood pressure improvements. Cholesterol has been variable in the studies. There's a hint of data it may actually reduce the risk of coronary artery disease, my kind of epicenter. We need more studies. In my own clinic, I could do endothelial function studies before and after carotid intimal medial thickness ultrasounds. That would be a home run if we actually could even take it a little further. You would anticipate it probably is very artery-friendly program, but science requires you to do the studies. So good stuff. What else is really hot? There continues to be recognition that identifying silent subclinical coronary artery disease is of value. That's called calcium scanning of heart arteries using a special carotid artery scan. Rather than guessing, looking at a person, you're low risk for heart disease because of these factors, you're high risk because of these factors. Boom, check the arteries. And this is something that's been available for over 15 years, 20 years, American College of Cardiology, but the general medical population, and maybe even the integrative group that we're with, doesn't necessarily pound down the fact. You can look good with aesthetics, and you can have a great gut microbiome because of, some of the amazing things we learn here. But if your heart ain't right, you still are maybe not on a path for optimal longevity, optimal health. So, for example, fascinating study just this week. There's a research group in Madrid that are tracking over 4,000 bank workers, and they've got all kinds of data on them. And they published just this week that you can take the population in that group that have really predicted to be low risk for cardiovascular disease, blood pressure, blood sugar, cholesterol, family history, all the standard stuff. And 50% of them had silent but important, what are called subclinical cardiovascular disease, heart plaque, carotid plaque, leg plaque. Well, if 50% of the people walking around on the streets of America have, matching this kind of employed population of bank workers in Spain, and there's reason to believe it's pretty close to 50%, have silent atherosclerosis, we need a program to, one, start screening them actively, which is available right now by CT or ultrasound. And I don't think there's going to be anything other. There's better blood work to look for inflammatory markers that's come on in this year, great blood work, that's taken us beyond C-reactive protein, which everybody should have done, into routinely measuring interleukin-16 and other markers of vessel inflammation. But we need a program, and we need research studies, and we need an integrated approach to halt and reverse this program, which is what I do in my clinic, using an amalgam of published data in humans. And I'll say, I've left standard cardiology and entered the world of integrative cardiology fully about 2 years ago, left hospital, left cath lab, left practice. But I'm routinely seeing plaque regression, meaning anti-aging of vessels, which is really a big deal. I mean, we have these little tidbits from Dr. Dean Ornish, Dr. Caldwell Esselstyn, kind of pioneers in the field. But we need to bring that into 2017, 18, 19. And, I think this fasting mimicking diet, some of what we learned about supplements like vitamin K2, M7, some of the active botanicals, bergamot, berberine, and it's amazing to see people come back 6 to 12 months later, and they're by what we call arterial age, a kind of valid scientific way to judge. You're 55 years old, but your arteries used to be like you're 70. Now your arteries are like a 55-year-old. It's amazing. So that's all been kind of the spectrum of what I'm seeing pretty routinely. The downside is the public. The public's still struggling with rising obesity, blood pressure and diabetic rates that are frankly scary. Confusion about optimal diet. The public's very confused. Butter, not butter. Coconut oil, not ketogenic, not ketogenic. I wish we could rally around some central message that almost all of us can agree on. Get rid of junk, add in plants, leave 10, 15% wiggle room there for whatever version you want to do, paleo, Mediterranean, plant strong, plant only. But I think the public's still very confused, and the medical world hasn't really done a tremendous job on clarifying that.
Any given week, there's a new story out. So.
New story. In fact, this week, the Australian Medical Society came out with a position paper that low-carb diets increase the risk of type 2 diabetes. There's a lot of people listening to this that are using low-carb, high-fat, maybe ketogenic diets purposely to reverse type 2 diabetes, and it's certainly a popular trend right now. An online company called Virta Health, I don't think they're here at this meeting. They should be at this meeting. They would fit in. I don't really agree. They have a 10-week study that a app-based or web-based coaching and introduction of a low-carb, high-fat diet to put people in ketosis, and they have this 10-week study. They've extended a few people to 6 months, can reverse a substantial number of the type 2 diabetic patients. I'm concerned about it. I've spoken to Dr. Longo about it. I don't want to put words in his mouth, but the fasting mimicking diet creates a ketosis, but for 5-6 days a month max, probably only actually 2, 3, 4 days towards the end of the dietary plan, not a 30-day a month after month after month after month. And there's some very concerning, database studies, kind of the science you get in nutrition, not the best studies, but you get what you get. Probably hundreds of thousands of people that long-term chronic use of low-carb, high-fat diets may actually increase mortality rates in these cohorts. Mortality is a bad one. My blood sugar is good, but I'm dead is not a goal. But I've written some, online articles, blogs on that topic to keep the debate alive. But it's, again, the public's confused. The study, it's really a position paper out of Australia that was in the news today, is very consistent with what I would say, eliminating carbs and bumping up the other food groups, fat and protein, may work short term, but this Australian Medical Council position paper said that's not really, you ought to go with the whole food, plant-based, which is going to be high complex carb, high fiber diets, which is always going to be better for colon health and probably cancer risk and all the rest. So, controversies out there.
Tell me about your new book coming out.
Yeah, thank you. I've written 4 books. I'll just give a shout out. Number 4 was called Vegan Sex. Little racy. I had a couple female co-authors, and we did recipes and talked about dating as a vegan and erectile dysfunction in the world amongst meat eaters and non-meat eaters. It got some notoriety. It was self-published, but it's actually being published by it was picked up by a real publisher and being published. I wrote the medical part, but why plants in your pants, as at least one of the chapters talks about, might be a good plan for long-term sexual health, men and women. The new book is called The PlantBased Solution, although it might sound, I've actually never really written a medical book. The vegan sex book is more fun and more dating and kind of a light book, although it's pretty thick. This is, chapter by chapter, cardiovascular disease, diabetes, neurologic, autoimmune, gastrointestinal, renal, psychiatric, psychologic. Where's the data favoring plant? I like the plant strong, plant only, vegan. What's the medical data? And then with this instance of my darling wife, there's 70 recipes, a 3-week eating plan, kind of a program. I have not been strong on programs, just eat oatmeal and berries for breakfast, have a big salad with beans for lunch, and get some tempeh or seitan or a bean burger for dinner, and that's my plan. But we put in awesome recipes and shopping lists and guides and all, kind of to make the person starting out, the baby steps, make it special, make it good. So that's with a big publisher. It seems to be doing real well on pre-orders, and it's all about helping people. And there's different paths, but as I say, the scientific basis that recognizing that food is the single most important thing you can do to, other than maybe wearing your seatbelt and a bicycle helmet, single most important thing you can do to, enhance your health, prevent disease. Yeah, put your phone away when you're driving. All the necessary accoutrements. But, and then pick which food program you're going to do, but make sure it's clean, make sure it's the processed, added salt, sugar, oils are out of there. So I always favor this plant-based approach, and based on my 40 years, my patient population, cardiovascular science, and excited it's going to come out. It's got a very pretty cover, got a foreword by John Mackey, the founder of Whole Foods, which was very kind of him. And right now there's only going to be 2 books in Whole Foods, his book and my book, which is pretty cool. And a little intro by Dr. Dean Ornish, who's a pretty big deal in the world of cardiovascular health.
You're in good company.
Good stuff, yeah, he's a pretty good guy. What to look forward to in 2018? I don't know what's the next big thing. I think genomics. I'll share with you, and I think your listeners might be interested. There's a clinic. We have a speaker tomorrow, Peter Diamandis, MD. I'm friendly with him. He is one of the founders and involved in a startup in San Diego called Human Longevity, Inc., HLI. And their stated goal is to extend human life by 30 to 40 years by 2050 using genomic technology. The principal startup is Craig Venter, the person who opened the human genome first, his own human genome, in 2003. So they have a clinic in San Diego called Health Nucleus Clinic, and I learned of this a couple years ago. I wanted to go a couple years ago, but to go through the process was over $25,000, and I figured, there's things you do for fun, but I probably will hold off. I was just launching a restaurant, and it wasn't the right time. So they've dropped the price, and in August I went to San Diego, and for under $5,000, because that's technology. It'll be $1,000 in a year, and it'll be $400 to have your entire genome sequence. So I was number 41,242 in the world that has had their whole genome sequence and stool analysis, and they do it non-contrast. So I found out just 2 nights ago. So MRI from the top of my head to the bottom of my toe, no unexpected anything.
There's a brain. They found a brain.
About 2.5. They found a brain. It's a lot of straw. Or maybe that's the heart. 2.5% to 3% of people, they find incidental findings on the MRI of importance: a tumor, a cancer, a enlargement of the aorta. They do a cardiac MRI. It's awesome. I mean, maybe a cardiomyopathy or a valve problem. There's no contrast, and they think that's a fundamental part of screening people intermittently. Stool analysis, there's some pretty interesting data about plant-based diets and the microbiome, and I had a very typical microbiome with a lot of a bacteria called Prevotella. I had this report is like 500 pages, so I haven't really dug into it so much, and no evidence of SIBO or inflammation. And then the genome is interesting because everybody's got something. You got something in 21,000 or 22,000 genes. And again, this isn't 23andMe. This is actually your entire genome. So I carry a couple things. I have an increased genetic risk for eczema. But there's a gene called FH, and it's not familial hyperlipidemia. It is something about an enzyme called fumarase. It's called a fumarase deficiency. So I have both. I'm dominant in a FH gene, and there is a little linkage to renal cell carcinoma.
Wow.
So my best friend in Detroit is the genetic counselor at my hospital, and I'll go sit down with her. I'm not really worried. Maybe every couple of years I'll get an MRI of my kidneys. But the model is, and what they're banking on, and we'll see if they're right, is this kind of testing when it gets down to $800 to $1,000 might be, super efficient, particularly if CRISPR-9 and this gene editing and splicing technology. I mean, if this was a serious genetic disorder and they could run my blood and cut out my gene and put in a new one, I mean, that's not necessary, then it may be a new model for longevity and part of their program to extend, life, which is really, it's just forming how this is going to happen. I think what we heard from Dr. Longo and enhancing autophagy is going to be part of that. and this advanced screening and genetic analysis. So there were a number of the genomic analyses were cardiovascular and Alzheimer's related genomics. So if I can remember correctly, they were all they were all very favorable. But you don't know, so I have to pass on to my children now that who knows in 15 years what the availability of this kind of genome-wide analysis will be. But they probably should know their fumarase activity. There were a couple others that were pretty minor. Interesting stuff. And I need to take an aspirin on airplane flights or nattokinase because I knew I have a heterozygous clotting disorder factor too. Yeah, so it's interesting, and I do that with my cardiology patients, right. Not to this degree, but they learn. It's really kind of funny to talk to an 82-year-old and find out for the first time I'm telling him you're homozygous for the MTHFR defect in your homozygous. I mean, they made it to 82, but still want to optimize their health, and we're getting there. We're getting much further down the road. I mean, a big buzz in cardiology in the last month was what I feel is the leading lab test for cardiology, although there's many good ones. Cleveland Heart Lab, affiliate of Cleveland Clinic, got bought by Quest, the largest lab company in the world. So I'm not sure when in 2018, but theoretically, I don't know how many lab draw stations there are for Quest, but you're going to be able to access TMAO levels, this interesting molecule from the Cleveland Clinic. You'll be able to access advanced inflammatory panels, and cost and need all have to be sorted out. But knowledge is power, and applied knowledge is power. So this is the stuff I need to guide my cardiovascular patients optimally, and it's just going to be much more widely available and hopefully cost effective for people. So all kinds of interesting things.
Will an 82-year-old patient make modifications in their lifestyle?
Yeah, they will. Actually, so for that particular homozygous, it's a big complex vitamin, so that's an easy fix, right? That's the beauty of that MTHFR defect of that kind. Yeah, they will. I mean, if you tell them you're pre-diabetic and you have inflammation and your lipid disorder, and almost everybody at age 82 has some atherosclerosis, so it does matter. There isn't a lot of experience using the fasting mimicking diet in people in their 80s because the clinical trial, I've had some. That's an option. I mean, everything, all the whole lifestyle things. Start walking, start eating better. They will. They will. And I had a woman, not quite that old, 72 years old, walk in my office this week. I hadn't seen her in 6 months. She goes, "How do you like me now?" Which used to be the name of a TV show my daughter used to watch 20 years ago. I said, "You look good. What's up?" And this was just a very nice, average person, not a woman of tremendous financial means, but a good person. She goes, "I'm 65 pounds lighter."
Wow.
I said, "Whoa, really?" She goes, I'd only seen her once 6 months ago. I said, "How'd you do that?" She goes, "Well, I read a book." I said, "That's fantastic. You read a book and you actually lost." She told me I got rid of the junk and I cut down on my meat and I don't eat cheese anymore and I eat a lot more vegetables and fruits. I said, how many people actually lose 65 pounds at 6 months?
That's incredible.
And I said, "What book do you read?" So actually, she read my first book. Which I thought for sure. I didn't know that, actually. I said, "What'd you read?" Did you read Dr. Furman's book?
Wow.
And now
she's
it's called The Whole Heart Solution. So, yeah, so, we still don't, how do you motivate? Take 100 people that have a need to make lifestyle change. And last, and again, I don't want to talk, not only is that phone-based coaching company called Verta Health that it's using ketogenic diets, ketogenic animal-based diets for diabetic reversal. There's a whole host of these that I think are going to be useful. Not everybody can sit down or afford a health coach one-on-one, but by phone you can, and by text messages you can, and by people checking in and caring about you, knowing a little bit about your history. So there's a couple really interesting startups that have just launched in the last couple of months. Some are using a variety of diets. There's another one I know that's using plant-based diets, really high technology that just didn't exist. And I just took a poll of my patients, how many would like a online smartphone-based health coach, and a whole lot said, if you can keep it under $100 a month, I might just try that for 6 months. And I'm excited about that because I can only do so much. And support groups are awesome, can do so much. But your phone, phone's the problem because we're sitting on our rear playing games all day long, but it might be the solution too. So
for
good
compliance?
Stuff. For compliance, for continual stream of education.
That's great.
Yeah, and reminder, did you get in your 5 to 7 servings of fruit and vegetables today? And Yeah, and you can, it's a real person, so you can actually have an interchange. I think it's pretty cool stuff. You know, and Apple III watches doing that and all. I think that's what I have to say.
So I look forward to our next sit down, maybe next year, and see what your 5th book coming out.
Yeah, 5th book will be out, and there's one more. I need to write a heart disease reversal book. Dr. Ornish wrote one in 1990 using food, lifestyle meditation, and such. Dr. Caldwell Esselstyn in the Cleveland Clinic wrote one 10 years ago with food. Dr. Steve Sinatra is here with a friend of mine, Dr. James Roberts, wrote one, more of an integrated book, but that's 10, 11 years old now, and I don't see another one coming out. And I think we need one. I mean, there's a lot of stuff. And, you know, this is the number one, you know, cost of loss of life, loss of love, loss of, you know, expense or wage earning, and we need to have an aggressive program to identify and reverse. And so, anyways, that's the next one, next year.
Well, thank you again.
Thank you.
Sitting down with us, and look forward to seeing what's ahead for you.
Thank you very much. Appreciate it.
You're welcome.
You have great energy. Thanks for sharing.